I've been coaching for the last 20 years or so, and the last 10, 15 of that have been in the CrossFit space. I've had the privilege of working with some world-class athletes, professional athletes, and lucky enough to work with some world champions. It's one of the greatest jobs in the world, especially because I have the kind of dual role of working with these elites, but I also work with moms, dads, kids, and everyone in between. One of the biggest challenges that I have as a coach that I think will resonate with a lot of people is when everyone's doing the right things. We are working out, we're eating the right things, and we're sleeping, yet we still don't see results. Or even worse, we're doing all the right things and we still get sick. And you guys know people that kill it in the kitchen, dedicated to the gym, and doing the right things in the bedroom, but sleep. But yet they still come down with some terrible disease. And it's really hard to describe, really hard to understand what the mechanisms are that are leading to that state. Until recently, it was a big struggle and something that was very frustrating for me when I'm working with these athletes, whether they're the elites or these super dedicated clients that are killing it, yet they're still not getting where they want to be. And what it comes down to, I realized, is just a simple some physiology and evolutionary biology. And here's what I mean by that. We have built into us an incredibly efficient system that's there to help keep us alive. You have these two autonomic systems running inside of you, meaning that they're automatic and you don't really have control over them. One is called the parasympathetic. This is where you have rest and digest. This is where you rest and repair. This is where all of the immune system does its thing, the gut does its thing, it turns food into energy and creates health. The other one you have is called the sympathetic nervous system. This is the fight or flight. This is the aggression. This is the time to go. This is the adrenaline. This is the cortisol. Those two things are at odds. And it's pretty much like a light switch. You're either in one or you're in the other. Now, from an evolutionary perspective, this is amazing. It's a very good thing. Because when the saber-toothed tiger came out to get us, we flipped over from the rest and digest. We were out picking berries, doing our thing, over to that time to go. Adrenaline would spike, cortisol would go, pupils would dilate, your heart would go, and it would send all of the blood away from your gut to the working muscles, all hands on deck, so you could sprint with everything you have to run away from that saber-toothed tiger. When you got back to the campsite, we switched back into the rest, relax, and repair, and we chilled with our homies by the campfire and did our thing. That's a really efficient system. Really fast, acute spikes to do the job, to save our lives, but then let's get back to this rest and digest. The problem is that when you go into that acute fight or flight, your immune system basically shuts off. It goes away. And if we are constantly in a fight or flight state, we basically are diminishing our immune system. The thing that we're fighting so hard for by eating clean and eating light, by doing the right things in the gym and being active all day long and getting the good quality, quantity, and consistent sleep, basically goes away if we don't recognize and respect this incredibly powerful system. It's so powerful that doctors know about this. When you're about to go get an organ transplant, a new kidney, a new gallbladder, what the doctors do is before you go under the knife is they inject you with stress hormones, because they know that the stress hormones will diminish your immune system. And if they don't do that, your body will sense the organs as an outside invader and reject them. The system is so well built for our survival system. The problem is we don't have saber-toothed tigers anymore. We have traffic jams, bosses, social media, and trouble with our relationships. And our bodies responding to those things like they are life-threatening when they're not. This basically calls for a fourth pillar beyond exercise, beyond nutrition, beyond sleep, and it's what's going on between our ears. It's mindset. And when we hear mindset, we've heard a lot of talks about mindset over this weekend. What we need to do is recognize that it's really hard to grasp what we mean by that. Beyond growth mindset, fixed mindset. Beyond be positive. What we need to do is create a framework, gamify it, so we know where we are, we can recognize it, and we can climb the ladder. Essentially, what we're looking for is a way to evolve our consciousness. Now, evolution usually takes centuries, generations upon generations, for true biological evolution to happen. But the evolution of our minds can happen in one instant. It can happen right now. If we understand this framework, then we can understand how to navigate to the next level of our mindset. And there's 5 different levels. The lowest level of mindset is the victim mindset. The victim mindset places all the blame, all the power on the outside. The victim says, why is this happening to me? It's the lowest level of mindset, and I believe it's the worst thing a human being can do to themselves is to navigate the world with that type of mentality. No ownership, woe is me, why is this happening to me? Now, the next level above that is called the pessimist. And the pessimist doesn't go, woe is me, but they go, oh, damn, this is going to suck. And they look at everything as the glass half empty. And what we know through watching race car drivers, people doing typing tests, ER surgeons, classical violinists, and CrossFit athletes is that if you enter into an event with a positive mindset, you will execute better than you do with a negative mindset. So what we need to do is move from the pessimistic mindset up to the next one, which is the optimist. The optimist, the glass is half full. It's opportunities, not obstacles. The future is going to be brighter than the past. But here's the interesting thing. Most people, when you hear this talk about mindset, that's the top, and we want to get there. I'm here to say that actually the difference between a pessimist and optimist isn't even that great. In a lot of situations, the pessimists outperform the optimists. If you're a prisoner of war, you will survive longer if you're a pessimist. Because the optimists say, it's okay, guys, we're going to be out of here by Christmas. Christmas comes and goes. It's okay, we'll be out of here by Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day comes and goes. They tell that story to themselves over and over until next Christmas comes and they die of a broken heart. The pessimists go, we ain't never getting out of here. But there's a level above the optimist, and this is who actually lives the longest. It's the realist. The realists understand that it's not worth labeling things good or bad. As Shakespeare said, there is no good or bad, but thinking makes it so. We so badly want to label things as good or bad, pessimist, optimist, when in reality, all we have to recognize is that no matter who we are, human being, ant, aardvark, or anything, palm trees have to weather tropical storms. Dolphins get sunburned. There is hardship in life. It's coming for us. It's going to happen. You're going to miss your flights. You're going to have a hard conversation with your spouse. Someone is going to say something about you on social media. All of these things are going to happen. And the realists accept them as a part of life. What we don't have right now in this moment is enough perspective to actually know if something is good or bad for us. It's a story, I'm sure many of you guys have heard this, of the wise old farmer. The wise old farmer has a son, and his son is out tending to their singular horse in the fields. And before the son comes in for dinner, he leaves the gate open and the horse runs away. And all the village people come running up to the wise old farmer and they say, "Oh my gosh, that's so terrible. You lost your only horse." And he said, "Maybe." 3 days later, the horse returns and he brings with it 8 other horses. And the village people come running up to the wise old farmer. They say, "This is amazing. You're the most wealthy person in the town now. You have 8 new horses. This is amazing. You're so lucky." And his response was, "Maybe." The next day, the son is tending to one of the wild horses, trying to break it, trying to domesticate it. And he gets bucked off the horse and breaks his leg. Again, the village people come running up and say, "That's so sad. I'm so sorry that your son, your guy that worked the farm for you, broke his leg. That's terrible." And he said, "Maybe." 3 weeks later, the village is attacked and the army goes house to house to recruit all the young men to go into battle. But they need to pass over that house because the son has a broken leg. In that moment, we don't have enough perspective to understand truly what is good or bad. Let's resist the temptation to do that. Because what ends up happening is things take place. We'll call those things triggers. When a trigger happens, it creates a thought. That thought then creates an emotion. The emotion creates a physiological response in the body. And that physiological response in the body can either make you perform better or worse, make you healthy or sick. Now, there's a level above the realist. We have the victim, we have the pessimist, there's an optimist, the realist, but the highest level that we should all be aspiring to, I'm certainly not there, is a curious competitor. And not competitor in the sense that everyone talks about, like, "Oh, they're such a competitor." When little Johnny's crying after the Little League game because he lost, that's not being competitive, that's being a sore loser. Recognize what truly a competitor is and wants and strives. What a competitor wants is to be pushed. Because they know that the greatest thing that we can do as human beings is learn, grow, and evolve. And the only way we can do that is by being challenged. And what the curious competitor wants is that challenge. They want to be pushed. They want the challenge. That way, when they go through that framework of there is an event that happens that triggers you, there is a thought that comes about from that, which results in the manifestation of an emotion, which creates a physiological response, which creates greater or worse performance. What we have to recognize is that it's the way we frame things, not the things. The same event can happen to 2 different people, and the way we think about that event, the way we focus on it, and the story we tell ourselves about that event can be very, very different for 2 people, or it can be very different from us yesterday to us tomorrow. A story to exemplify that. I have 2 young children. They're 7 and 9 years old. One of them, my daughter, my 7-year-old, has been stung by a bee. When she sees a bee trigger, there's an event, she has a thought, danger. I don't want that to happen, which causes a physiological response, fight or flight. She moves from the sympathetic nervous system, from the parasympathetic to the sympathetic nervous system, and she goes into a high stress mode. That then creates a physiological response in her body. My son loves nature. He watches nature shows all the time. When he sees a bee, one of his favorite movies is the Bee Movie with Jerry Seinfeld. When he sees that bee, it's curiosity, it's amazingness. He wants to watch it and see how close and get close to it. The same exact event, it's not the events that dictate how we are going to manifest. It is the way we frame them. The challenge we all have is to become aware of that. If we want to move from the victim mindset up through pessimist to the optimist to the realist to the curious competitor, it takes one thing and one thing only, and that is awareness. When things trigger us, we have to become aware of what's happening and recognize that it's not the reality, but it is our past conditioning that's causing the thoughts. One of my kids got stung, the other one watched nature shows. It's the past conditioning that creates the thoughts. We assign meaning to those thoughts, and that can either make us healthy or sick. The curious competitor is only focused on what's happening inside of them. It's all about the character and the way that they respond to events. On the opposite end of the spectrum, we have the victim. And what the victim is only concerned with is the external events. They are not concerned whatsoever with how they respond or their character. If we want to evolve to the greatest potential that we have as human beings, yes, we want to control our environments. Yes, we want to control what we're eating, the way we are moving, the way we are sleeping, but let's control the greatest thing that determines the environment inside of us, which is our mind. Recognize the framework of the 5 different levels. Recognize the awareness that we need to have to move from a victim to a curious competitor. Thank you.